Meditation is a healing practice, whether we look at it from the Western viewpoint or the Eastern viewpoint. And those of you that are familiar with how I present, I often talk about meditation from the Eastern viewpoint. In other words, the Eastern countries where meditation originated. And I often look at that as the meditation that is really designed for us to have an accepting attitude for everything, and allow ourselves to come into this stillness of this present moment. And with that acceptance, then we can let go of many things like attachments, things that might cause stress for us, be able to let go of the past and the future and to rest in that present moment. That alone is very, very healing. If we can do that for any length of time, it is like being in the REM or the realm stage of sleep for hours and hours and hours. If we can just do that for a few minutes each day, it's very, very healing, very energizing, and very informational, because it is our true nature. It is very much what people are seeking and looking for in meditation, because it is that present moment is pure consciousness. It is that moment of consciousness where there doesn't have to be a self that is in that presence. So it's actually a state of non-self, the non-self that the Buddha had talked about. It's a temporary non-self to be in that presence, but it is nonetheless a golden taste of selflessness. And many people recognize it from the standpoint of the ego. There's no ego there. So, but the primary thing that I'm bringing about while I'm talking about this is that in that presence, from this Eastern practices, to accept our conditions as they are, to not be concerned about the past or the future, and to be in this present moment is very, very healing for us, because there's no stress. We're not concerned, and there's no self. Now, from the Western standpoint, when we say that meditation is very healing, when we read about it in our Western magazines and we look at it from the Western viewpoint of mindfulness, that type of thing, and from kind of the New Age standpoint of meditation, we could very much say that we are looking at meditation and we're applying some healing with the meditation, towards the meditation. And what that means is that more of what we did last week, where I actually guided us through a practice where we did a great deal of meditation practice, meditation where we were applying and deliberately applying healing towards ourselves and then spreading it out towards others, very much like a metta practice. And that is very possible to do. I hope everybody is, I'm taking a look here. I'm sorry. Something kind of blacked out here. I just wanted to make sure that everything was still connected. Okay. But as far as the healing aspect goes, when we are in that present moment, we are, I think we can all agree, very much healing ourselves, our individual selves. We are de-stressing. We could just put it that way. Very little stress and a lot of healing energy. And when we're in that place, we can manifest healing for others, because the mind is so powerful, and we all realize that. when we apply our mind towards something, when we're in that special place, when we're in that presence, when there's no hindrances, primarily the desire and the aversion or ill will or anger or anything like that, no restlessness and worry, no fatigue, mental or physical fatigue, and then of course no doubt, where it's like we're priming ourselves for this pure consciousness. And then when that happens, of course we're healing ourselves, and then we can actually put that intention out. And that's all it takes, is a little bit of intention to heal a friend, heal somebody close to us, or heal an animal. And that is what really determines somebody that has healing power, healing qualities to them, that they know when and how to use it. And that it kind of determines, like many of us have probably experienced Reiki, for example, or healing touch of some sort from somebody that was not very effective, and also maybe somebody that was extremely effective, somebody that was very quiet and seemed to know what they were doing and was in that place and created that space for the client and for themselves. And then they were able to do their work. And actually, then that's when the client walks out of there and feels like something has truly happened, some healing quality. But the practitioner has to be in that place. They have to be, in that presence, that stillness of mind. And we can do that exact same thing ourselves when we're meditating. We come into that presence, and that's why it's so important to be able to relinquish the past and the future, and to be able to let go of these things. And then when letting go of the idea and the thoughts and the states that are related to the past and the future, we come into this present moment, and we can very much, we can heal ourselves, of course, very easily, and then we can also put that intention out, to others. And so it's kind of a fine line, but it is a thing, and that's the only way that we can actually put that healing energy out there. And I've said it before that anytime that somebody has what I would call supernatural or superhuman or above human powers, it is when they're deeply, deeply concentrated. And I've seen this. I've seen meditators, specific meditators, monks in some cases, do some extremely supernatural things, summoning, bringing leaves into their hands and things like this, and just some very powerful things. And the only way that they could do that is, of course, having no hindrances, that are the hindrances that I just mentioned, being completely concentrated. In other words, they are absolutely present. They're in that pure potentiality, that consciousness, that pure consciousness, and they're able to do these things. So that's when the mind gets very, very powerful. And we have all experienced that. When we have done wonderful things at the spur of the moment, it's because we weren't thrown back by the past and the future. We were spontaneous, and we knew exactly what had to be done, and we were doing it from that state of presence. So we'll do a meditation here, and I will guide us through it, like I normally do, about probably, this will probably be about a 35-minute meditation, maybe a little bit longer. I will guide us through about maybe 10 or 15 minutes of it, and then the rest of it will be in silence. I might interject as we go, just to kind of bring people back, back into this place, and or not the place, but to bring people back if their mind is wandering. That's the intention. I might remind people to come back to your breath, and that is for again, that's for people that their attention has wandered off and they don't really realize it. And that's just not for beginning meditators. That's for everybody. That can happen. Depending on what happened, to us today, we could be fatigued or tired, and that's why we sit up straight. We sit rather than lay down. I tried to do a meditation earlier today while laying down, and I fell asleep. So lying down does not work for me, and I don't suggest people necessarily even try it unless they use a particular technique that is used in Theravada Buddhism, where you lie down and you're resting your head and your shoulders, your buttocks, and then your thighs and feet. So you're very rigid laying down. Usually it's not on a soft bed. It's on the floor, and you're very rigid, and your intention is not to get too comfortable. You don't want to fall asleep. Today I just got too comfortable and I fell asleep, so I learned my lesson. A little bit about postures. The Buddha said that we should learn to meditate in all postures. That means sitting, lying down, as I mentioned. Standing is a very good posture for meditation, and walking meditation as well. Walking meditation lends itself very well to contemplation, and it can be very healing itself too. Because one of the things about walking meditation, if you know anything about EMDR is when we move our eyes, bilateral stimulation. And when we are actually walking, we're actually doing bilateral stimulation. The body and the eyes are often moving back and forth. And we're doing that without realizing it, but it can be very, very powerful, a form of meditation. Not the deep, concentrated stuff that we might do when we're sitting, but contemplation and just really being able to be present and mindful. It's a very, very good practice. Standing meditation, I had a friend that he worked for the city of Phoenix, but he wanted to meditate during the day. He was a meditator, and so he would park his car he would come along a park. I'm not going to say any names because this guy was supposed to be working. He would find a park, and he would find a shade underneath the tree, and he would go underneath that tree, and he would stand and do standing meditation in the shade of the tree. I thought it was a very, very good idea, to do a practice like that. Nobody knew he was meditating. Nobody was bothering him. All he was doing is standing there. When you're standing there, you can have your eyes open or eyes closed. Usually, I suggest people have their eyes open unless they're very experienced. Otherwise, you can equilibrium can get, kind of off a little bit, and you start having vertigo. But walking meditation, standing meditation is very good. Sitting meditation, like we'll be doing tonight, I think most of us, I will be. And lying meditation, when it's done properly, with the back of the head, the shoulders, the buttocks, and then the calves and the feet, and in a rigid position. A very small pillow, if any at all. And we used to do that practice in Thailand a lot. They kind of had almost like a siesta time, around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, but it was actually not for sleeping, it was for meditating at these retreats. So we used to do a lot of that. So please make yourself comfortable. Find your posture, keeping the back fairly straight, chin lifted a little bit, and feel free to close the eyes. Take a nice deep breath. Notice how it feels to gently and slowly exhale. Take another nice deep breath and notice where you feel that in the body. Likely you feel it around the nostrils or someplace in the sinuses. And when we pick a meditation object, which is very important in meditation, many of us will go to the breath. The breath is very important from the standpoint of meditation and how it can be used. And if a person is using the breath as their meditation object, chances are they're not using it the same way as anybody else. We can use the breath just strictly as a feeling on the body, such as when we take a deeper than normal inhalation, we can feel it someplace in the body, like this around the sinuses or the nostrils, as mentioned. We might notice the movement of the body as well. And some people will use the breath as an instrument or a tool to really bring the mind into center. In other words, they might use the breath to count, as a tool to count with. Inhaling and exhaling for 1. Inhaling, exhaling for 2, and so on. Maybe counting up to 21 and back down to 1, or some people like to count up to 100. Some people will start their meditation by counting, and then when they feel as if the mind has settled down, where the past and the future don't seem so prominent anymore, then they'll let go of that counting and focus on something else related to the breath. We can notice where we feel the breath. The top of the inhalation, the bottom of the exhalation. Try to find the middle of the breath. See how that feels for you. Notice that there's 2 middles of the breath. There's a middle when we inhale, and there's a middle when we exhale. And so we can touch these spots, these places with our awareness. And this keeps us closer to the breath. And the breath is merely a tool for us to relinquish the thoughts that we've been having all day long, the worries, the desires. Allow us to become present. The breath is the most popular and the number 1 meditation object that a person can use. It's very convenient, it's very consistent, and it can be used in so many ways. You can find your own ways to use it. If we were not using the breath, we might use other things such as sounds. sensations. In other words, feelings, within the body, things that really ground us, that bring us into this present moment. Some people use repetitious words, like a mantra, or some type of chanting inside of in the mind. And this works very well for people that like to work with words and use words. And the point is that anything that brings us into this presence, we can also use feelings and states. Feelings of pleasantness and unpleasantness. As long as we do not let the mind go out beyond this present moment, in other words, trying to find or discovering eventually that we are looking for a feeling that we had earlier in the day, or a desire for a certain kind of pleasant or unpleasant feeling. Wishing to eliminate an unpleasant feeling. It's actually a desire. Getting angry at an unpleasant feeling, like a headache. Getting upset that our muscles are tense because of some work that we did today. Anything that propels the mind into the past or the future is really not a part of the practice at this moment. The past and the future are very, very important, and that's where our lessons are contained. These lessons that we've learned. How can we know that we've learned a lesson if we can't really relate to the past? The lesson that we've learned that the past contains. Very important. But during meditation, the practice of meditation, this is a time to let that go. Just another thing to let go of. Reason being, we have attachments. We have mental and physical attachments. We have environmental attachments as well. But in meditation, the mental attachments are usually the things that give us difficulties. Our minds just simply get in the habit of thinking. And sometimes this is repetitious or habitual thinking, where we think the same thoughts again and again and again. And meditation is a wonderful training ground to end that repetitious thinking pattern. And so if we use the breath, come into this presence, this present moment, recognize this as our true nature, a very selfless place. The ego has no work to be doing here, so it doesn't exist as it would normally. It is the I or the me or the self that has to reside in the past. It has to be the I, me, or my that resides in the future, me doing something, or I am going to do this, or I will be doing this. And so meditation can be looked at as a mini vacation for us. We don't have these responsibilities at this time for the I to be taking care of the past or the future. Meditation is a very selfless activity, literally selfless. And without the self, there are very few, if any, problems, any difficulties. The body is still here, sitting, breathing. All the organs are working as they should. The blood is circulating. But all of this has been going on without our doing, without our consciousness. We don't have to be conscious of the breathing. We don't have to be conscious of the function of any of the organs. We might notice temperatures. We might notice that we're uncomfortable. And these are just functions of the brain. It is not us that is doing it. So life can become very, very simple. When we become annoyed at something, it is the self that is annoyed. And when we become very happy and have feelings of being complete, it is because there is less self involved. We're able to accept what has happened, what is going on, and be able to let go of these things that we've been hanging on to most of the day, most of our lives. And that is a sense of self. So the invitation is to let go of that. It's going to return, unfortunately. But if we can get a taste of this freedom from selfing, as they say in Buddhism, we will understand our true nature and who we truly are. And in the same way, we can heal ourselves and use that healing quality and energy to help and heal others, if that's what we wish to do. So find the breath, sit with the breath. This is your tool to come into this present moment. It's just an item or a thing to focus on so that the mind doesn't wander off into the things of the past and the worries or complications of the future. We're focusing on something very simple to allow us to come into this present moment. And this is where insight arises. This is where the questions are answered. This pure consciousness is the same thing as our true nature, or what we call our Buddha nature. It is the true essence of who we truly are, beyond the self or the thinking mind. Stay with the breath. Make sure that you feel centered in every way. Make sure the body feels balanced, left to right, front to back. That balance can also be looked at as being present, where we're not leaning towards the past or the future. That balance can also be looked at as something similar to the middle way of the Buddha, not pushing ourselves too hard, but not giving in. In other words, applying just the right amount of concentration on our meditation object. The breath. Any thoughts that come to mind, pay no attention. Just let them be. Not hanging on or attaching to anything, a feeling, an idea, a sensation, any kind of thought. Being selfless, but yet being completely connected with everyone and everything. Stay with the practice. The mind might have other ideas of what you should be doing. The environment might have other ideas of what you should be doing and using sounds to distract you or something like this. But just keep coming back to these moments of present moment awareness, the stillness. A few more minutes. Just allow the mind to rest. Notice how it feels to be present. To give the mind that break from the continual thinking process. To have a consistent practice in meditation where we can train the mind and to train us to notice these moments of presence. Very valuable. A few more minutes, just really connect with the breath. Connect with the stillness. Bring your hands together in front of your heart if you like. May each one of us and all beings be well, happy and peaceful. May no harm come to us. May no difficulties come to us. May we all meet with spiritual and worldly success. And may we have the patience, the courage, and the understanding to meet and overcome any problems or any difficulties that we might face in life. Thank you. I would like to see if there's any questions from anybody. Doesn't look like there's any direct questions. I want to thank everybody for watching. I sent out or for taking part, a little bit more than watching. Just watching somebody meditate isn't going to do it. We have to actually do the practice. It's like reading about meditation. A lot of people enjoy reading about meditation, reading about spirituality, but if it's not practiced, it won't actually benefit us very much, just to go through the entertaining aspect of it as far as reading and being there. But I sent out a newsletter today, and if you feel you didn't get it and that I don't have your email address and you want to connect, with these newsletters, please get that to me. You can email that to me at shane@meditationlearningcenter.com. And the newsletter just talked about some of the different gatherings that are going on online, and there's quite a bit. Gina Tunder is doing something 7 days a week. Ryan Nimick is doing Fridays, or Mondays and Thursday evenings. Excuse me. The Dharma of Recovery is Friday evenings, and of course this is Wednesday evening. So there's something going on, and that's just, the things that are directly related to the Meditation Learning Center. There's other things happening all over the world. I think of this pandemic thing as really an opportunity for people to use technology towards their spiritual lives, for their spiritual lives and towards their spiritual goals. I think it's a good thing. We have an opportunity to awaken, to use this time to go within, and I think we have an opportunity to use it very wisely, to see our world in a different way, in a different light. I think it's very welcoming in many ways. The other aspect of the newsletter talked a little bit about just thanking people for subscribing to the YouTube channel. We can now monetize, so in other words, the Meditation Learning Center can get a little bit of income from some of the commercials that are used on the teachings and on the meditations and that type of thing. And then just thanking people sincerely thanking people for taking advantage and using these videos for their own practice. And we try to put them out and keep them consistent. At least one video each week is going out. So there's hundreds of them on YouTube. So please take advantage of that. And if there's anything that you would like to hear, any particular kind of teaching or anything like that, or any kind of different meditation, please let me know. So this meditation that we did this week is completely different than last week. We did more centering, talked a great deal about being present, and that should be our way of life, really. I mean, we should be very, very present, and we can function very normally by functioning in this presence. It's being very very fulfilling, very fulfilled with our practice and with our lives, not allowing the repetitive thoughts to take over us. We should always be thinking of what we are thinking about, and not letting our awareness get too far out there, to go way, way, way out unless we know that we're doing that on purpose. And what I mean by that is keep things contained. Keep the more contained we are, the closer we are to our home base, and the more we will actually enjoy life, rather than thinking about all these things that happened, or thinking about these dreadful things or these wonderful things that might happen in the future. And that's okay to be thinking about these things and being concerned about these things, as long as we know that we are doing that, so that we are in control and training the thought process. And then in meditation, what we're doing is being able to find the switch, turning it on and being able to turn it off, and which is really very, very healing, as we talked about earlier. So on that note, I will let everybody go. Thank you very, very much for being a part of this, and we'll see you next week. Use the other videos, and if I can help you with your practice in any way, please let me know. Send me an email or contact me somehow, and we'll be there for you, okay? So thank you very much. Have a good evening.